All right, hey, welcome to another edition of Voices in the Struggle. I'm your main man, Big Ant, and I'm
And I'm
here with
brother
none
Reggie. Right
other
on time. Right
than my
on time.
partner in crime, Brother Reggie. Brother
What's
Reggie
up,
playing,
man?
playing handyman around there or something.
That's right, man. Fixing
All right,
computers,
that's it. We're going to get into this intro
microwaves.
because we paid for it. Here we go.
Broadcasting that real straight out of Savannah, Georgia. Meanwhile, back in the jungle. Voices in the struggle. Voices in the struggle. Hosted by Big Ed and Brother Reggie. You ain't never seen it done like this before. Speak your mind about what's going on in the world. Voices in the struggle. The latest in news and current events that affect our community. Catch it live on Facebook and YouTube. All the time. Welcome to another episode of Voices in the Struggle. Voices in the struggle. By the people, for the people. Meanwhile, back in the States. There is not a liberal America and a conservative America. There is the United States of America. I'm saying to you, I'm not apologizing. Stand up like a man. For all the black men that are tired, swinging stand up like a man. Like a man. For all the men that need a man, stand up like a man. Stand up like a man. For all the women that don't know what a man looks like.
All right. So that was by Shy Bless. He's working on another hot track for us. I told him we need something to get your head nodding. So he's working on that for us. You know what I mean? So, brother, how the hell you been, man? What you been up to?
You know, man, I've been quarantining. Staying in this house. I'm scared of people.
You been quarantining for real, huh?
I'm scared of people, man. Hey, I don't be going. Hey, I ain't trying to mess with nobody. I don't know who got that thing.
After my little scare, man, I gotta tell you, I ain't doing too many public events unless they outdoors.
Right, exactly. Cause hey, that thing too scary. I don't see. I ain't hear from your side yet. I heard a couple people who had it. Man, I don't want it.
Yeah.
I don't want it. No sir. Yeah.
But we as Voices in the Struggle are in a network of other radio shows here in Savannah that we are dedicated to getting the truth out, getting the word out, uncut. That's for Black folks. So let me give you a rundown. We off your week every Sunday at 7 p.m. right here, Voices in the Struggle, the Black Power Hour with Brother Reggie and Big Ant every Sunday at 7 p.m. On Monday, we got Candy Lakeisha at 6 p.m. on Facebook Live with Keisha Gibson Carter. On Tuesday, we got the most informative local show that you'll ever hear about, For Us, By Us, with Alicia Miller Blakely. On Wednesday, we got 7 p.m. All Things Relevant, politics and anything you want to hear. On Thursday at 7 p.m., we got Community Talks with Jay Jones. On Friday at 6 p.m., one of my most favorite shows, I say all of them, but one of my most favorite shows is the Air Scott Hour with Alicia Scott. And on Saturday, we got Pep Talks with Jay again. So listen, there's enough to keep you engaged 7 days a week right here in local Savannah. And the Voices in the Struggle, we are proud to be part of that movement. But tonight, we got one of my favorite guests on the show. We have licensed professional counselor, mental health therapist, Michael Porter.
Right on. That's what I'm talking about. What's going on, brother?
Greetings, Brother Anthony, Brother Reggie. Always good to see my brothers, and thank you for having me on. And thank your listeners and viewers for tuning in.
Hey, thank
Just
you
like
for
you
taking the
brothers, I'm
time
trying to
tonight.
quarantine and do some office work today and AC repair.
Oh, they up.
So every now and then you're gonna see that.
Absolutely.
I'll get back to
Absolutely.
that later on tonight.
Jack of all trades.
Hey, you don't want to call me brother to fix your
This
AC.
is, you know how much you charge though. No say.
Well, don't call you
Hey, $4 an hour. I'll call you all day long. Come on through.
But it's good to see you, brothers, and thank you for having me on again.
Same, likewise. Likewise.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Mr. Porter, as we were talking about a little briefly earlier, you know, there seems to be there is when a black patient is, say, in pain or so, they don't get the medication that a white patient would get, and I think the result of that is you have a opioid addiction problem within the white community that's being addressed, and black folks, we got a war on drugs when it was drugs put in our community. So how does that play into the into the psyche of black folks or treatment doctors and everything? How does that play into all of that?
Okay. Well, let me give the viewers and listeners a backdrop, an overall scope of what we live under, definitely in the United States. We live under what's called a medical industrial complex. To give you a scope, under that we have a medical industrial complex. That's a combination of doctors, hospitals, drug and device makers, and medical insurance companies. And it's all for profit. It's all about making money. And a second thing to that I want the viewers and listeners to understand is this. Sometime in the early 1980s, the pharmaceutical industry, your drug makers, they married the American Medical Association. The American Medical Association and many doctors are almost owned, operated, and controlled by the pharmaceutical industry. The pharmaceutical industry has a lot of pull in Washington, D.C. They have a lot of pull they don't care who the president is, Republican, Democrat, that's irrelevant to them, just like many other major Wall Street corporations. They just want to know if you're going to do their bidding. So the scope of it, so the scope of it is first those two things, that we live under a medical industrial complex here in the U.S., and that is a combination of hospitals, doctors, drug and device makers, various medical equipment, and medical insurance companies. Many hospitals are owned by insurance companies. So we look at that scope. Now we look at a third thing. The last I checked was about a year ago, but there are two countries in the world. There are two countries on earth that allow the pharmaceutical industry to directly advertise to the public: the United States of America and New Zealand. No other countries allow the drug makers to directly advertise to the public. People may say, well, what's wrong with that? Well, what they understand is the psychology of advertising. Let's look at the Super Bowl. You say, why would somebody spend $20 million for 20 seconds or 25 seconds? Well, they know they're going to make their profit back and then some. that we would all like to think, oh, we only do what we want to do. But there's a reason there's a line at Foot Locker to get Nikes. You know, there's a reason people only buy this kind of car. You know, so that's important for us to understand how drugs are advertised to us. Think about it. How many people had restless leg syndrome before they saw a drug commercial? How many people say, oh, I got acid reflux before they started showing that purple pill, whatever, 20 something years ago? You know, we'll be surprised how many people said they're bipolar because they heard somebody say, ooh, you bipolar. You are it. People who have they're not psychologists, psychiatrists, mental health therapists. You know, you, this is the kicker. Or you got an attention problem. You need medicine.
Black
so
children.
We got to understand the umbrella. That's the umbrella that all of this exists under. Now, when you look at drugs, legal drugs, in the African American community, there's always been an issue with because when you look at the opioid crisis, let me show this. This is the March 5th Time magazine, 2018. Any local public library can let you get a copy of it. This is the March 5th, 2018 Time magazine titled The Opioid Diaries. It's very raw. Reading it is heartbreaking and it's raw. Now let's look at that. What is the reason there were not tens of thousands of African Americans dying from the opiate crisis? Well, as many viewers know, because it's been widely discussed now, the research, many medical doctors across the country would be hesitant to give African Americans pain pills, but they will be more readily disposed to give pain pills to white Americans. Now, you can theorize on why that's so. Here's my belief on it. We've been workers in this country. Our labor created Wall Street. The stock market was created off our labor. So we are viewed as almost like mules, oxen.
Cattle.
We're tough, we're strong. You know, we're the people they go to the White House to pray. They see us as spiritual and physically strong. That whole concept, that whole 300 years of enslavement thing. So if you got a young or an old physician, someone in medical school or someone who's been practicing 25 years, there's a collective view that, oh, they're Black, they could tolerate the pain. But, and this is my view, and they see whites as more fragile. Oh, you're a white male, you're a white woman. Oh, you're so delicate, you're more fragile. Let me give you some pain pills. And there were so many people dying from the opioid crisis that the Center for Disease Control reduced the life expectancy rate in the United States. And when you look at those deaths and you look at the COVID-19 deaths, America is now less than 5% of the world's population. The United States of America was once 5.1 or 5.01% of the entire Earth population. Now we're under 5% of the entire Earth population. So that's the scope of how this works. Now, going back to the history of treating African people, the medical industry has always been unkind to us. We were the experimental people. You know, even now, most research hospitals are located in poor urban areas. And a lot of the people they could pull in for research are people who live in various housing projects, low-income areas. And that's across the country. It's the north, east, south, it doesn't matter. So when we look at when we look at pharmaceutical industries, just like many other industries, we cannot disconnect the pharmaceutical industry from a type of white supremacist pattern of thinking and behaving.
That was deep.
Mhm.
That was deep. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. And you know, to piggyback on what you were saying about they know we're so strong that they don't give us the medication. They don't treat us the right way when we go to these medical facilities. They've known that since slavery. That's why they picked us to transfer from Africa over here. They know we was gonna make that passage. You know, under those conditions, nobody else could do it. So they know us. They know more about us than we do. But it's a terrible thing how they treat us in these facilities, medically and financially, everywhere they castrate us. But it's a terrible thing how they do it.
You know, when you study the history of like not just psychiatry, you study the history and the founding fathers of the American, British, and German medical systems, they were all very racist. I mean, extremely racist. In a lot of prisons in Louisiana, they used to conduct lots of experiments on the inmates. As a matter of fact, one prominent person, one of the founders of the American Psychiatric Association, was extremely racist. He said he once said that it was cheaper to experiment on niggers than it was on cats, as a justification for going into prisons and using us for various guinea pig types of things. And I'm sure everybody viewing this, we're all familiar with the Tuskegee syphilis experiment,
right? Where
healthy black men who did not have an STD were deliberately given syphilis, so they can be experimented on to see how it affects the human body. It wasn't they didn't use rats or guinea pigs or monkeys. They used us. So we have to have a type. It's important when people when any of us, whether it's someone, a 90-year-old African American or a child in first or second grade, it's important that we ask questions when we go to physicians. We should ask questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question to ask a physician. You know, if a physician is, you go in and you're sitting in an exam room or sitting in, depending on how the facility or place you go to, and don't let them just rush you out there. Ask questions. Ask about the side effects of the medication. You know, a lot of times people are put, you go to one doctor, then you're put on you're sent to another doctor who's a specialist in this, that, or a third. Now you could have 2 or 3 doctors prescribing you, each one prescribing 2 or 3 medications. And it's not like these physicians are always taking the time to see what the other doctors are giving you. Because medical doctors work on a time schedule. They're going to see 40, 50, 60 patients, roughly from 7 to 11 minutes each. Come in, stand up, do some lab work, get you out of there, say, I want you to do this, and I'm going to refer you here. So before you know it, you're playing medical chairs. You're going to different doctors, and you're on 2 or 3 different medications. And we assume that because they're medical doctors, they went to universities, and that's a good assumption. But we live in a profit-driven medical system. People have to understand that. We're in a profit-driven medical system. We are the only nation on earth that does not have a universal health policy. We're the only nation on earth. All modern countries, even countries that aren't modern, you're a citizen, you simply go to the doctor.
Right.
So in a for-profit medical industrial complex, you better ask a lot of questions. And another thing that the brothers and sisters need to do, we need to start reading and talking about the benefit of food. What food can help our hearts? What food can help our brain? What food is good for our digestive system? Should we have probiotics, what they call stuff that's good for your gut? Should we start talking and asking our doctors, nurses, getting books and saying, well, what are probiotics? You know, your immune system and your gut, your stomach and intestines have a big impact on our immune system. We need to start talking about also using food. It's interesting. I'll share this with you. My grandma lived to be 98 years old. She was 8 years old when there was the last pandemic, what they called the Spanish flu. But it started in Kansas. So, but I don't understand why. Anyhow, it was called the Spanish flu. And as you know, that it was similar to what we're dealing with right now.
Trump named it. That's who named it. Trump named
it. And of course she lived through the Great Depression. But we had a interesting conversation years before she passed that they were so poor they couldn't afford a lot of meat. So every day you had lots of stuff with like stews, all kind of carrots, tomatoes, onions, all sorts of stuff, maybe a small piece of meat you could put in something. But they had no idea they were eating heart healthy. They had no idea that because they couldn't eat a nice steak, that nice red meat steak and say, oh, I'm eating hound, the hog or whatever it is, you know, all these things. They did not, you know, and so many of them lived, some of them lived to be like 103. She lived to be 98. So as a people, we need to ask questions when we go to these doctors. You know, for brothers and sisters viewing, don't feel that if you got a doctor, you know, saying, oh, last I checked, I'm the one with the MD. Well, you tell him, last you checked, this is your body and your life.
Right.
He could be helping you signing your death certificate. So you got to be able to just ask questions. Don't say, well, I don't want to look ignorant. Everybody's ignorant about something. We're not God. So you ask questions because it's your body. And it's sending you to that pharmacist to get something filled. And let's face it, all medications have a side effect. Everything, every pharmaceutical has a side effect, whether it's a little bit or a lot. You know, so it's those are things we have to definitely do, and we have to be careful about. Another thing, brothers, is our children, you know, with the mental health diagnoses and medication with our kids. With schools, the people work in a school system, unless other than the school nurse. And I'll tell you why I'm explaining this. The school nurse was trained in medicine, in the medical field. The principal wasn't. The school counselor wasn't. The school psychology was not. The librarian was not. The cafeteria workers were not. And the teachers definitely were not. So if you have especially a boy, if you have a boy and he's about 5th grade, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, and kindergarten and pre-K, and they're saying, oh, he's so hyper. He's so, you know, he can't stay still. He's fidgety. You know, I think he has ADD or ADHD. Now, legally, nobody, teachers aren't the person legally to give that diagnosis, nor is the principal, nor is the school counselor. You know, he hasn't gone to a licensed psychologist to be tested. And another thing that parents should do, if someone wants your kids on these medicines, is you ask the school personnel, are there any other tactics could be tried? Since school systems have social workers, psychologists, behavioral specialists, say, is there something you could do to try before you put my kid in special education or before you recommend I go to this psychiatrist for meds? Don't they have other types of skills that they've been taught in college to use to try to help my child, other than a quick fix of, you know, take him here, put him on drugs, and then later You wonder why he's standing outside of a store asking somebody for spare change, or going in and out of prison for drug use, drug dealing, and everything else.
Yeah,
Right.
I feel that all the time. You know, parents, you have to, parents have to go to the school and be an advocate for their child. You know, you can't believe every white man in a suit and a tie. You know what I mean? You can't believe every person who claims to be educated. That's your child. You know what I mean? Some of these I would say white teachers are unequipped to deal with black children. And
Right.
their go-to is to label them as special needs, get them on some medication, and I think the school gets funding for that, and so many parents go to the school, they're head nodding. They're head nodding instead of advocating for their child. What
Right.
else has been done before you want to put my baby on medication? Before a little Jamal or Jaquisha become dependent on this medication that they don't need. What else have you done to do that?
Yeah.
You know?
And just like, like Brother Michael was saying, man, I had a child that was on the medication for a short period of time. He was very hyper. And, I went along with it with my wife at the time, but I seen his reaction to it, how it slowed him down, like he was on drugs. I could see the drugs kicking in, I was like, okay, from that moment on, I was like, no, he's not taking this anymore, because you diagnosed him with this, but all you had to do is tell him to sit his behind down. He sits behind down.
That's right.
You got to know how to, like you said, you got to know how to deal with the child. If his mama say, "Well, sit your behind down," he sit down. The teacher, you should be able to do the same thing.
And this is the thing. Yeah, if they're not sitting down, you call me.
Right.
I'm coming up to that school, and they're not gonna want me to come up to that school. That's how we do.
Now, I'm your ally in this. You know what I'm saying? The teacher, I'm your ally. So you got me. You tell me what they're doing wrong.
You cannot have your child up in school for 8 hours and not support the teacher.
Right.
You can't do it.
You can't expect the child to want to sit down for 8 hours. I'm a grown man. I can't sit down for 8 straight hours.
Exactly.
I got to get up and walk around. I got to do something. You're not going to have me in a chair in a class all day for 8 hours.
That is so true. There's a lot of people viewing may remember when there was a time when physical education was 5 days a week in school. And let me say this. There are more than 3,000 counties in the United States. Of the 50 states, there are 3,100 and something counties. And in the majority of those counties, kids don't have physical education, PE, 5 days a week. Some counties don't have it, schools don't have it at all.
Right.
Some of them have it 1 day a week. So the purpose of physical education was a healthy body, and it allowed kids to kind of get off some stress throughout the day. But because of monetary issues, a lot of schools, well, we'll just cut back on that, cut back on this, and cut back on a lot of things. But in no counties or no state do they cut back on building youth detentions, jails, and prisons. So it's a sick thing. And let me comment on. There's also a lot of African American teachers and social workers and counselors that push the medication thing. Sometimes when people in certain positions, they become system maintaining people. It's system maintenance. And the belief in the medication is widespread. As Americans, we live under a medicine umbrella. Whether you go into a doctor for one thing and you get put on multiple medications, or you're a child and a teacher saying, oh, your child can't focus or pay attention, or your 15 or 16-year-old is grumpy, and they say, oh, they have a bipolar disorder. You're bipolar, and you see people using those terms frivolously, loosely. Oh, you're bipolar, or oh, you ADHD, or you're just this. We use them as if it's it's kind of sad and scary the way these terms are just used. So we have to stop, pause, take a deep look, and have these type of conversations, and look at that whole scope, the opiates and the perception of whites are more fragile. That's my viewpoint. I feel from the medical profession, the reason opiates are overprescribed to whites and underprescribed to African Americans. Their perception of us as being physically tougher and stronger. And so it must mean that whites are more fragile. If we're perceived as strong and tough, then we can only assume the reason the medical profession overprescribe pain pills to white men and women is they view them as fragile. And then the view of, especially now let's go to the other end of the spectrum, elementary schools primarily, and Black boys, and the recommendation for medication, psychostimulants, stuff, methylphenidate, like speed. So you're putting them on speed in elementary school, and you wonder why at 20 or 21 they're using harder drugs. So we as a people have to look at the full scope of this, because whether you're 70 years old or 7 years old, we are kind of assaulted by this reality in a nation that that allow the drug companies to directly advertise to people. It makes you believe in those things. You're watching a TV show or you're on the internet, and you see a couple walking along the beach, and they're smiling and happy and embracing on a bright sunny day at the beach. And you see the name of a medication you can't even pronounce, and you see a condition you can't even pronounce. And they're saying, oh, now you take this. And now, it's like they're selling happiness. They're selling joy. They're selling a life free of pain. And that registers with millions of people. So we as a people have to become aware of how this system, how this thing works. We're dealing with powerful psychological influences that will determine our belief and how we view medicine, or being humble with doctors instead of asking questions. And we have to understand we live in a for-profit medical system. America's medical system is for profit. Look at COVID-19. One of the reasons we didn't have stockpiles of respirators and N95 masks and protective gear is because it wasn't profitable. There was no virus out. It wasn't profitable. Corporations want to make things they could get you to buy quick. They could get it to a car dealership, get it to an electronics store, get it to the stores in the malls across America. And then what was the other reality? Well, America took jobs from Americans, as we all know, and you took them to Vietnam, Indonesia, China, other countries. So when you need except bullets and bombs, now we make some guns and we make weapons of destruction. Now they'll never fall short on that.
Right.
We'll make sure we keep the firepower, but everything else you send to other countries because they don't have unions. They don't have a minimum wage. You don't have to pay health care in these other countries. They don't get no pregnancy leave, no 2 weeks, 1 month vacation a year. They just work. And then you send it back to America to sell it. So that's the reality of what we're dealing with. And the system was destructive of its own people with the opioid crisis. They didn't see what they were doing to their own people. Now, corporate America taking jobs overseas, that was different. They didn't care. They simply didn't care. It was like, we're going to make a profit. We don't care, about middle class whites or working class whites. That's how, Donald Trump really won. He won because working class and middle class white people felt the American dream was out of reach. and and he was able to talk a good game. You know, the guy's a hustler. You know, he was able to talk a good game, and you know, he was successful.
Very successful. And it's the, you know, off topic a little bit, the classism is taking it from, is no more middle class. It's about to be wiped out, you know, because it's just rich and poor. Like you say, middle class whites, they're going to be poor because they don't have enough money to sustain life, you know, of what they're trying to do. Because if you don't have a job, if you ain't created a job for a need, you're going to be out, you know, making $100,000 a year don't mean nothing if your job is gone. And like Brother Mike, like you were saying, we're talking about the healthcare thing. When the COVID hit, me and Big Ant talked about this before too. Folks were out at the grocery stores. You go to the fruit and vegetable section, it was plenty of fruits and vegetables, nothing on the can shelves, no box, nothing. They was buying all the processed food, but none of the real stuff that's going to help your body, your immune system be better and fight this disease. So people don't understand that, hey, you got to educate yourself on how to eat right. You know, like you were saying, you know, if you don't eat right, we have to go to these doctors. And like you said, if you don't check the doctor, you're going to take some medications that you're not going to read the side effects on. And, you know, you get in that cycle, hey, you're killing yourself and you're going to help them. They're going to help you die faster.
You know, generally speaking, you know, now over the last maybe 15 years, some of the Eastern medicine practices have begun to sprout in the U.S. Roughly, I would say roughly over the last 15 years, a lot of Eastern approaches. But generally, you know, doctors go to medical school. You know, you ask a physician how many dietary classes did they take? You know, and a lot of the big schools get money from the pharmaceutical industry. The Food and Drug Administration, that's supposed to oversee a lot of things that deal with what we consume. The Food and Drug Administration get a lot of money from these private drug companies and chemical companies. So, you know, we have when you got a for-profit system, you know, it's like the doors are wide open for all sorts of things to occur, you know. So we don't, you know, if I'm a big pharmacy and you're a medical university, and I say, look, you know, I want your university to test this new drug we're making, and I give your university $5 million a year. It's no coincidence that as y'all test it, you're gonna find that, hey, it works.
Right.
How many times do you see these legal commercials where you see, have you taken this? Have you suffered from this? Call the Acme Law Firm.
Right.
And da 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 da. Well, years later, and no telling how many deaths later, it comes out. So, you know, we every human body will get sick at some point, but we have to understand what we're dealing with, especially as African Americans, simply because the medical field, like every other aspect of American society, has never been fair and kind to us. It's never been fair and kind to us. It's not every doctor or every hospital, but collectively speaking, the medical profession has never, we were the guinea pigs, we were ignored, just like today, you know. So we people, we have to do some of our own research. We have to ask questions. We have to look and say, how should we eat? How should we use food? You know, we need to ask questions. We need to ask our doctors, are you talking to the other doctor you sent me to? Because he or she gave me 3 more medicines, you know, because now you're on 8, 9 medicines.
Right.
And then you wonder later, why is this happening, that happening? And before you know it, they're sitting at their desk signing your death certificate. Right.
Because some of those medicines disagree with the other medicine they gave you. And, you know, it gets you even sicker, you know?
Yeah.
And
just imagine.
Yeah.
Just imagine
Go ahead.
The commissions doctors could get for prescriptions. Just imagine the commissions a lot of them can get in this country.
Legal drug dealers.
You know, hey,
Legal
brother,
drug dealers.
you know,
They ain't got to stand on the corner.
That's it.
mhm.
And some of them,
So-
they're pushing the placebo effect. They're giving you that fake medicine. They ain't doing nothing for you to keep you coming
Right.
back.
That's it.
Mhm.
That's true. Because most of us can't afford the medicine because it's so high. You know, it's too high for
Yeah,
us.
those,
You know?
yeah. A lot of and they're not going to get any cheaper.
No.
They're not going to get any cheaper. There's a lot of people have a lot of financial anxiety right about now.
Mhm.
Financial anxiety is sky high. As a matter of fact, years ago, Robert Reich, he was the Secretary of Labor in the Bill Clinton administration. Robert Reich. Brother Reggie mentioned the middle class a second ago.
Mhm.
Robert Reich said the middle class should properly be called the anxiety class
Mm.
because they want to maintain or reach a higher income level and avoid falling.
Mhm.
And the way the way of the economic system for many of them, a lot of them are teetering on the brink of falling into a lower economic position.
Mhm.
So it's a lot of anxiety. Some of those 200,000 a year, 160,000 a year jobs
Mhm.
start to dwindle.
Mhm.
You know, and people say, well, we'll just hire 5 people and pay each one of them 45,000 and, you know, do
The same
better than
job.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, corporate America has never been patriotic to America.
Mhm.
No.
Corporate America, the CEOs and the major board members and the major stockholders of your multi-billion-dollar corporations, they're not loyal.
Mm.
They're loyal to profit.
Mhm.
They are
That's it.
loyal to profit. You know, they have turned lots of white communities into the Rust Belt. You know, the 5 or 6 states that was once the industrial heartland, the industrial heartland of
Mhm.
America. They used to call it the industrial heartland. Now it's called the Rust Belt.
Gotcha.
It's
Okay.
called the Rust Belt. So
Rust Belt.
that's so they're not loyal, and they really don't care who the president is, because, you know, and this is something I know, you know, we as a people have to understand, no president can save black folk.
Mm.
Presidents, American presidents, have to save Wall Street.
Mm.
That's a reality, regardless of our income level, what church we go to, synagogue, mosque. If you're African American, you have to understand, no president, whether you love them or hate them, can save black folk. Presidents have to be loyal to Wall Street.
Mm.
They have to be loyal to companies that control trillions of dollars.
Mhm.
That's their first point of loyalty.
Mm.
That's why Bernie Sanders didn't stand a snowball's chance in hell of winning.
Mhm.
Democrats hated him, Republicans hated him.
Mm.
He's talking about $15 hour minimum wage, free community college,
Right.
getting rid of student loans,
Mhm.
universal health care. There was no way he was going to win.
Right.
There was no way he was going to win. You know, so both parties couldn't stand him. You know, and it was interesting. A lot of people had asked me, and I was like, you know, it's funny. Every black person I know, or most of them, could stand to make 15 an hour.
Right.
And God knows they need a universal health policy, because the meds, as you were saying a second, the meds are too high. And imagine if you could go to your local community college and don't have to take out a student loan.
Mm.
You know, I say, but we are a people who can be emotionally manipulated. We can hear feel good. It's like the pastor of a church could, you know, go into and Jesus, and don't you hear me? I don't hear you standing up, and Lord, and clap your hands if you hear the Lord, and the Lord. And then after church, people say, oh goodness, oh, that was a good sermon. Oh, the pastor just, oh, good. What did you learn? What did he say? Oh, it was just a good sermon. See, we can be emotionally manipulated. We can feel good. That's a type of intellectual, emotional masturbation. It makes you feel good, but nothing ever really happened. Mm-hmm. So when we tie all this together with the pharmaceutical, the drug companies, the problem with racism in America, and who's going to help us, a lot of times when we look at each other, we have to see our help. When we look at each other, when brothers and sisters look into the eyes of another brother and sister, another African American, there lies your help. And we as a people got to get to that. And one thing about the Trump presidency, he'll help us get to that. He'll help us get to that. Because you get a narcissistic person who's very cold and just use people for whatever angle and just want to consolidate their power. If he was in another country, we'd be sending soldiers over there to say we're going to give them democracy. But it's here, and he's wide open with it. So we cannot make the mistake of sure, we have to get out there and vote in record numbers. We have to vote in record numbers, but we as a people cannot afford to be naive and think our savior has arrived. We thought that with President Obama, our savior has arrived. We are our saviors. Joseph Lowery, God bless him, Joseph Lowery said, one of the problems in politics, according to Reverend Joseph Lowery, is the Democrats take black folk for granted and the Republicans just take us. One take us for granted, the other one take us. So, but we got to vote and we got to work with what we got. So, we have to, a lot of our issues have a holistic element to it. The drug companies, the broad use of drugs, the for-profit system, the medical industrial complex composed of doctors, hospitals, drug and device makers, and medical insurance companies. They have a lot of power over what we think, what we believe, and what type of medicines go in our bodies. And they're looking to make a profit.
True. Big profit. And with the pandemic and this new drug for the COVID-19, I believe the numbers going to go outside the roof. People just going to buy that stuff up.
It's God knows we're all waiting on a vaccine or something. And we have to pray that between the corporations and the politicians that can get kickbacks, we have to pray that they just do the right thing. Because it's a lot of ruthless activity going on at some very high levels.
Right.
Because you're talking trillions of dollars over, several years, trillions of dollars. You're talking major. So let's pray that they will do right by everybody, that the goal will be to save everybody's life, the homeless guy on the street corner, as well as the people that live in a castle. Let's pray that they have compassion and mercy and say, let us save human lives. Because we can, when you live in a for-profit system and then it's racist, it's for-profit and racist, you get some strange dynamics going on. You get a lot of strange movement, and we have to have some type of suspicion at times. You look at the thing with the what they call the global population problem, that the earth is overpopulated.
Depopulated.
Well, Europe is not overpopulated. Europe is not overpopulated. I've often wondered if Bill Gates and many others would be concerned about overpopulation if the earth had, quote, too many people of European descent. If there were too many people of European descent, would it be an overpopulation problem?
Absolutely not.
So we have to, so when you look at COVID-19 and you look at the race for a cure, we just have to pray that the people in positions of power across the board have a heart to do the right thing with saving human lives. Not just somebody of a political party, of a certain religious group or a certain ethnicity, but everybody that God made on this planet. Because, a lot of money, see, when you have a for-profit medical system, a lot of money is made off treatment. People are looking for cures. We still don't have a cure for AIDS.
Right.
We're looking for cures, but a lot of profit is made off treatment. Now, there are people who could argue and debate on that, but a lot of profit is made off treatment.
There's no money in the cure.
You
don't have to go back to your doctor. You're cured.
Yeah, so we have to, and for people who've been used as guinea pigs, we've been used as guinea pigs across the board. So we have to, it does not hurt Black folk to be a little bit suspicious, a little bit inquisitive, even a little bit paranoid when it comes to a medical industrial complex. We have to be a little bit suspicious, a little bit inquisitive, and even a little bit paranoid, because the history has shown that we are viewed differently. We started out talking about the opioid crisis. All those people died, majority white, that died. That was not by design. These doctors didn't mean to drug addict or kill these people. That was not their intention. They wanted to treat them. But the treatment ended up being addiction and death. We weren't treated, and that's an irony. Generally, we're the ones who are experimenting on, and a few thousand of us die. It's like, oh, well, what the heck? So that's an irony that due to their perception of white fragility, of whites being fragile and can't tolerate pain, they overprescribed something that was going to cause tens of thousands of deaths, if not hundreds of thousands. I don't know the exact number from the deaths, but that was not intentional. So shows like this are important because for the viewers can have conversations about this. And if they're able to watch a show later, if that's how it's set up, then they can watch it and discuss, debate, even argue. But we have to start looking at things and thinking, because it's a lot happening. There's a lot happening in this country, and we can't afford to just be, tiptoe through the tulips and just kind of try to ignore it and, focus on the next dance or the next song. We have to do some of that too, have some fun, but we got to start getting a little serious with discussing things that impact our lives, because these things are going to impact our lives and our children and grandchildren's lives for some time to come.
Absolutely.
Very much so. Yes, sir.
We have to get very serious. I just think it's a time for Black people to do for ourselves, by ourselves. Sure, we have plenty of white people that see the need to help us, and that's great. I'm not turning them away, but what I'm saying to you is there has come a time where we have to be comfortable, and we need to sit down with only Black people. If we're going to ever get any resolve, if we're going to ever keep our priorities first and foremost, We need to do that with black people only, because most of the time when you get white people, and I'm not anti-white, but most of the time when you get white people in your solution, some of the priorities can get pushed, and some of the narratives can get pushed to a more inclusive way of thinking, which before you know it, our priorities are at the bottom of the pole.
You know, I'm glad you said that, brother, because it's not, when we talk about the survival of African and African American people, people have to be bold and confident to say black folk need to save themselves. That's not saying you dislike white people. That's impossible, really. You know, all of us have co-workers and even whites who are our friends. But it doesn't. So it's nothing to be bashful or say, oh, I want to make people mad because I'm saying black folk, we need to get together and save ourselves. You know, it's a lot, whites respect that, really. They see you as having good sense when you say we need to save ourselves. White people see that as intelligent. They say that's an intelligent black man or intelligent black woman, because they're saying that they better save themselves, because whites understand I sure as hell can't save them. So they better learn to save themselves. That's good sense. That's not being racist or anything. And a lot of us feel that's why some blacks don't perform well with helping blacks if they are elected officials, or they're in a prominent position in a bank or a hospital or at a university, because they're afraid of upsetting their white boss.
White backlash.
You know, and so they kind of back up because they don't want, you know, I don't want white people to see me as you know, being anti-white, or white people to see me as being racist and all that. So we become fearful of what white people will think. And after we become fearful of what white people will think, we have handcuffed ourselves. You just put handcuffs on yourself, and you just zip locked your mouth, because now you're going to function from a point of fear. You're going to function from a point of fear, because, you know, I don't want to lose this good job and my good house and my good Lexus, and you know, I don't want to lose my status. So I need to, you know, John F. Kennedy offered Martin Luther King a job in his administration. Suppose King took that job, things would be different. Because it's like, boy, you got this job now. I'm paying you good money.
Silence.
You got to do your job. You can't be out there in the street no more doing this, that, and a third. Yeah, amen. So we have to look at something that is something Elijah Muhammad said a long time ago. Elijah Muhammad with the Nation of Islam said, when the white man has a lot, the Negro will get a little. The day will come when the white man only has a little. And what can the Negro expect? Those days are upon us. Those days are upon us.
Yeah, because ain't gonna be no more crumbs at the rich man's table.
Yeah. So we have to start thinking, you know, what can we do? We have to sit down and talk and say, hey, can we get together and open a sandwich shop? Hey, can we go out in the countryside and buy 2 or 3 acres of land and do a little farm? Hey, can we get together and open up a store in a mall? Hey, can we get together and buy these particular houses, make them look real nice, and have some property? We have to start thinking, can we get together and invest some money and invest in some gold, silver, and platinum? Should we get together and go to Liberia or Ghana or go to a country in Africa and see what kind of business we could do with them? Should we get together and go to China and talk about working with a manufacturer getting some stuff made. We have to have those conversations. We have to literally have those kind of conversations because there's a lot of financial anxiety out here, and things will be financially tough for a long time. Even when a vaccine is finally discovered, things will be financially tough across the board for a long time. So we have to start having some conversations, take a leap of faith, and we have to say, hey, let's put our mind and some money together, and let's just start something, even if it's part-time. It's nothing beat a failure but a try.
That's right.
And it's interesting. Everybody viewing this is aware. Everybody, black or white, viewing this show is aware. When African Americans were segregated, we had more businesses.
Black Wall Street was thriving. It was the need of some black people to, first of all, let me say, I think integration did more harm than good. But I will not fault, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and everybody that did the sit-ins because they did something. But what I will say is, we, because of media and influence and everything else, I don't think that the Black Wall Street people, the black people, some of them were happy with what they had, even though they were thriving. There was always this pretense that the white businesses on the white side were doing better because they got the media attention, they got the notoriety. But like I read one person said, we did all this for integration, and I went to eat at the white restaurant and it was nasty. You know what I mean? So, so I don't think we value what we had at that moment. The white people valued it more because they came in and bombed it and burned it and killed over 300 people. I just think we black people need to get back to having something for black people.
Joseph Lowry once spoke at the Marriott in Savannah back in, I think, 2000 or 1999. The Martyr moved, in Atlanta. The African Americans who worked for Martyr they may still have their own union.
Mm-hmm.
And back in, I think it was 99 or 2000, they had their convention in Savannah, Georgia at the Marriott.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a bad thunderstorm, flooded streets, and that whole ballroom, the weather was really rough the night of it. And maybe less than 100 people were able to actually make it, although the tickets were sold and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So Reverend Josie Lowry was the keynote for that event. And I'll never forget how he explained that he, Martin, and all of them, Abernathy, everybody, he said a train had left the station when they realized that a mistake they made was allowing whites to decide what blacks wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And he said they interpreted it as, oh, y'all just want to be like us.
Mm-hmm.
He said that's not what kingdom meant. They wanted the economic parity. They wanted some better schools. But it was taken as, oh, you all just want to be like us. He said we had no ideas that the businesses across the country would start dropping like flies.
Mm-hmm.
He said there were certain things they didn't see coming. And one was the businesses just drying up, black businesses, because whites were getting white money and some of our money, and the black businesses mostly, almost totally dependent on
You couldn't
us.
catch a white man in a
Our
black
people
store back
were,
then.
yeah, so, our people saw the need to create and necessity. It's often said that necessity is the mother of invention. Somebody said that somewhere. Well, it was necessary for us to create and invent because they said, no, you're black, we don't want nothing to do with you. So we were creative. And it's a point where we have to be creative some more. We have to be creative some more. The search for that good job is okay, but we have to have a mindset that one day the good job may go overseas, or one day you just may get downsized, laid off, all the different things you know that happen where thousands of people at a time get laid off. And now we're living during a time where in some cities, entire malls are shutting down.
Yep.
Not a store in the mall, entire malls are shutting down. If you just look at Savannah and you go from the area near the Savannah Mall and drive all the way down Abercorn, you will see grocery stores that used to be there. Kmart used to be there. Toys R Us used to be there. One mall is like a ghost town. You know, and these are pre-COVID. This happened, Sears shut down.
Yep.
All this was before COVID. So things were bad before COVID-19. And things will get worse now. So we as a people have to have tough conversations. We have to talk, debate, argue, and we have to think outside the box and look at our reality and think, when we say who could save us, when we look at another brother or sister, we have to say, well, okay, I'm looking at who's gonna save us because it's gonna take us to save us. We need to vote in record numbers. I mean, we definitely need to go vote, and we need to be in line an hour before the polls even open, or do whatever we can. But we have to be sensible and understand only we can save ourselves. Nobody could save black folk but black folk.
You know, like I've always said, there has not been any organization. No, I wouldn't say there's not been any country, any state, any legal binding entity that has come to the aid of the black man in America. No one is coming to help us. Our current conditions are what they are until we decide to unite and help ourselves. That, you know, no one has ever come for us. You know, if you were to, if America, let's say the police would shoot a Chinese person, the police would have to deal with the China government. You know what I mean? But if the police shoot an African American or a black person, they don't have to deal with Africa because they've raped and pillaged Africa for so long, and they're still doing it today. Africa is not even a threat to the American society. So there's no one coming for us. We're all we got. Frankly, we are all we need. We just
there you go, brother. We well said. We're all we need.
Yeah, we have to realize that
people perceive us as powerless. You know, like you said, China. They say, oh, well, the Chinese government might argue this, or if they're from Japan or India, the Indian government may argue this. But for us, they know. You know, we it's like, well, who's going to argue for them? And so, hence, when people start protesting and whatever, they have to understand this whole country was there were a lot of protests. Didn't they protest with the British and then with the French? So they should understand protests when you under the gun and pressured and mistreated and you know, that type of thing, and you feel that you got nothing, no one cares, no one is coming, there's no cavalry coming to rescue you. That, as a matter of fact, if the cavalry come, they're liable to shoot you.
The cavalry ain't coming for you.
Yeah, it's so, you know, the nation in many ways, it can be like a beast feeding off itself. America has to do better as a country. It's becoming like a beast feeding off itself.
Yep.
And you know, it's not like the Russians are coming to get us, or Al Qaeda is coming to get us, or ISIS is coming to get us. No, it's America getting itself,
Yeah.
its own racist practices, coupled with financial greed, disregard for the well-being of the American people as a whole. That's the problem. That's the enemy.
And it's the well, Martin Luther King said that a riot is the voice of the unheard. It's the voice of people bubbling over from being unheard, from keeping your knees on our neck, from allowing the police to kill us and go on a 30-day paid vacation. But you know, as Black people, we don't have to worry about Al Qaeda. You know, we don't have to worry about ISIS. We have to worry about a traffic stop on the side of the road. You know, we have to worry about modern day Klansmen in suit and ties. You know, we have to worry about getting put in jail for something that our white counterpart would get probation for. You know, like I made a post today where we are surviving in America. We're not living in America. And I'm very critical of America because although I'm from African descent, I was born here. I'm not going anywhere. So you know, I'm American. I'm African American, and I have a right to be critical of where I live because I want a better place for my children. I want a better place for Black children. So you know, our unity is our most single weapon, our single precise weapon that we can use for our liberation, our freedom, and our salvation.
Amen, brother. That's the message we have to get to our younger brothers and sisters. That's a message that our pastors need to get to congregations. We need to say, regardless of our political affiliation or what church or whatever synagogue, mosque you attend, or what side of town you live on, all that kind, it has to be, we have to practice that African proverb. I am because we are because I am.
Let me tell you something, Mr. Porter. If you see 5 Black men hanging from a tree, if you can tell me which one was a Christian, which one was a Muslim, which one was a millionaire, which one was homeless, then that's when all that would matter. But the only thing that matters is that we are Black, and for the most part, I'm speaking from a collective perspective, for the most part, we are all going through the same hell in America. So we have to understand that. We create too many barriers. I'm a Hebrew Israelite. I'm a Catholic. I'm a Jew. I'm a Muslim. You know, we create too many barriers within ourselves instead of uniting on the one common fact that we all are the same hue. And you are my brother, and you're my sister.
Exactly.
So
and we have to keep preaching that, and we have to get to a point where it's gradually being practiced.
Absolutely.
You know, when like I said, with the issue with cops, which is an old issue, as everybody knows, it's just that now you have cell phones and you could videotape these murders, but it's nothing new. You know, it's just now you. But you know, we have to. The cops aren't saying, "Wait, are you Christian, Muslim? Are you college educated or not? You know, are you this?" They see an African male, an African American male.
That's what they see.
Yeah, that's it. And you know, regarding that, a lot of people are familiar with this, and many aren't. And in many of the southern states, almost all of them, and viewers can research this. If you were a member of the Ku Klux Klan, it helped you get a police job faster.
Absolutely.
In many southern states, if you were a member of the KKK, then that helped usher you in to get that good job as a police officer.
Absolutely. You know, the police badge and the act of policing started with slave patrols, where they would get white people to go out and hunt for Black people that didn't have papers on them, who was runaway slaves, who was off the plantation. That's where the badge from the police force came from, essentially, and that's where the police came from. There's not one time in history that the black man and woman has had a good relationship with the police. The police are the foot soldiers of white supremacy. If they can't incarcerate you, then they kill you on the side of the road with no vindication. That's why it's done so easy. And if that wasn't a problem, you would hear the police killing white people on the side of the road, but you don't hear that.
It's, you know, and to have, as everybody know, that to have a president that, you know, is just a nanosecond from saying, oh, it's okay to go out there and shoot black folk. You know, it's like, you know, in so many of his actions. And when you have the fact that most white men in America support Donald Trump, and then you see Donald Trump's racial views. And so that's a, you know, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to put one and one together. You know, if he talks the lingo, although Donald Trump does not care about poor white people.
No.
He has no love for poor whites. But he understands the nature of the pimp game and politics. And he's played it very well with them. So, but we as a people, we have to discuss these things. And then we have to say, okay, we've discussed it, we understand it. Now we need to make moves to protect our reality. One of the drawbacks with Black Wall Street up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, they did extremely well with getting together, creating businesses, a good financial infrastructure where their dollars flowed among them. Perfect example. Where they fell short was assuming that nobody would harm them. And if somebody was to do something, they could call probably the police or law enforcement. So they had everything set up except self-protection. They had no system in place to protect their wealth, to protect their businesses. So that allowed white men to walk casually down the street and just shoot them like there's, you know, a duck hunt. Just walk and just shoot everybody in sight. There was nothing to repel them. There was no system in place, you know, so a lesson has to be learned. If there's ever another Black Wall Street anywhere in this country, the community better make sure that they have good police protection, but also that they have men who are trained, if necessary, if invaders come to destroy them, to protect the community. You know, that it's that's something that whites in America and Europe understand very well. That's all the stuff about gun rights, about you're not going to take away my gun. They're crystal clear with it. If you're not able to protect your house, your block, the street you live on, then they see that as insane.
Right.
You saw that white couple, I forgot what city or state, when the white man and his wife, he had his automatic, his assault weapon, she had a handgun, and they came out and stood on their lawn, and they were ready to drop some bodies if they had to.
Yep.
That was just a small example of how the collective white society think. So if we build businesses and build communities, and our kids aren't going to early grave and into prison, and we're doing well, we got shops and businesses, we'd better also be able to say, okay, we have some people trained to protect all of this, just in case somebody becomes psychopathic again and figure they're jealous and angry, and because of their jealousy and anger, they're going to come and just kill us just because they're mad.
Yeah.
Because of what we got. It's unfortunate to have to think like that, but unprotected wealth, someone once said is like a woman wearing a very short skirt.
I like that. I like that. So that's one of the first things I learned in the military from going to the field. When you go set up, one of the first things you set up is security. You know what I mean? You have to protect what you have. And we are such a loving, forgiving, praying people that we don't think about that. So, but Mr. Porter, I do thank you for your time, good sir. And as you know, I keep you on my short list, so we got to have you back. So you see how easy it is to get in now.
I respect what you and Brother Reggie are doing. I got nothing but love and respect for y'all, brother.
And
This
I
type of
appreciate
thing is necessary, regardless of how people receive it, it's necessary.
I appreciate that. That means the world to me, good sir. So thank you so much for your time and your presence, and we'll have you
Okay.
back soon, all right?
Okay, good brother. Peace and blessings.
So Voices in the Struggles is brought to you by Devonshire Transport Incorporated for all your transportation needs. The National African American Gun Association, in particular the Savannah, Georgia chapter, arming and educating African American men and women. The brownsugarbeads.com, Pamela'sDefense.com. And as I stated before, Voices in the Struggle, we are a part of an organization here in Savannah. We are a part of a group here in Savannah that is dedicated to getting the word out unadulterated to get you the news that you need. So on Sunday, Sunday at 6 p.m., we have Keisha Gibson Carter with Candidly Keisha. On Tuesday, it's one of my favorite shows, For Us, By Us, by Alicia Miller Blakely. On Wednesday, 7 p.m., All Things Relevant by Julius Hall and Friends. On Thursday at 7 p.m., it's Community Talk with Jay Jones. On Friday, another one of my very favorite shows, the Air Scott Hour with Alicia Scott. And on Saturday, it's Pep Talks with Jay, Friday evenings. So there's a show every week to get you going, to get you the information you need. Voice in the Struggle, we just happen to be a part of it. And thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Holla at you, boy. Peace.